Now let's move on to some politics and social media where some of you, no surprises, you're just continuing to piss me off. Why? Because every time I make a comment that's critical of the Democratic Party or the left, I get accused of being a pundit for the right. Prior to the election cycle, I voiced my concerns about Joe Biden and his ability to serve as second term as president. Then Biden stepped on the debate stage in late June and revealed what many suspected. He embarrassed himself. The White House and the Democrats eventually switched to Vice President Kamala Harris when he stepped away, who ultimately ran what some would say a valiant presidential campaign, at least in the eyes of some, that ultimately fell short with voters across the country. I pointed out my concerns with the campaign and the Democratic Party along the way, and many of you wanted to accuse me of being a voice for the right. So you know what? I feel like it's time to set the record straight because ain't nobody hiding, ain't nobody running. Okay? Let me be very, very clear. I'm a registered independent because I don't trust either side. I think both sides are full of it on so many levels and so many circumstances, it's nauseating. But I also want to take a moment because a lot of people out there on social media have been saying to me, here, Stephen A., you take these positions, you're frustrated with the Democratic Party, but then you voted for Kamala Harris against Trump. Why? It's very, very simple. I believe that Donald Trump has been a divisive figure. And I was thinking coming into this election that the last thing we needed was 4 more years of what we saw the last time, where there was so much strife and so much division that even though the economy clearly was doing well under his watch before COVID struck, it was just too much for the country to take. I was fearful of civil war in this country. It wasn't so much that he was supportive of white supremacists and he was this racist and all of this stuff like people were saying. I didn't engage in that incendiary rhetoric because I've always believed that Donald Trump was just somebody who did things that were politically expedient. If supporting one side was going to generate votes for him, he would flow with it. And if it was not going to support his cause, he wasn't. It's just simple. It's just that simple. Why did I say that? And why did I refrain from that incendiary rhetoric that was thrown in his direction? It was because I knew Donald Trump before he ran for president. And black, whites, male, females, and everybody in between got along with him great. So for all of a sudden, everybody to stand up and act like he was this pariah was BS. But I was also acknowledging he didn't help his own cause. From the moment in 2015 when he strolled down those escalators with Melania, the man offended 50% of the population back then in 2015. Came across as xenophobic in the eyes of many. And it just seemed to go downhill from there. So after he served his 4 years in the White House, I didn't want to repeat all of that. But I didn't call him a racist. I didn't compare him to Nazis. I didn't sit up there and accuse him of befriending white supremacists and all of that stuff because I knew no matter what people believed, they were trying to politicize it. So when I thought about him against Kamala Harris, I said, excuse me, let me make sure Republicans are in the House and the Senate. You have somebody that's going to work with both sides in the White House and we'll have peace domestically. That's what I was thinking. But under no circumstances was I this raving supporter of Kamala Harris. I saw her during the primaries in 2020. I saw that she couldn't get to Iowa. I saw her comments about transgenders, particularly those in prison that wanted sex changes. I saw how incoherent she appeared in communicating what her objective would be when it came to the economy. I know for a fact that she was supposed to oversee the issues involving the border. Yes, like Roland Martin said, she wasn't the quote-unquote border czar, but she was perceived as such. I also saw her go on The View and categorically deny that there was any need to change anything that Biden had done, even though over 12 million people crossed the border illegally, and you were acting like there was no border crisis. I saw the duplicitous tendencies. I saw the inconsistencies. I also saw the hypocrisy. And as the election came about and ultimately unfolded, and I saw Donald Trump win convincingly. No, he did not get 50% of the popular vote, as the Democrats are so quick to point out. My attitude to them is shut the hell up. Nobody wants to hear that now. Who cares whether he got 50% of the vote or not? He beat you in the popular vote and the electoral college vote. He swept the swing states. He improved his numbers in every demographic imaginable. Blacks, Hispanics, women. He beat you. And the American people spoke, and they spoke flagrantly. And from that moment forward, I'm like, damn all of that. We're going to support the fact that he won the presidency. And I'm going to tell you where I'm at with it. And that doesn't mean I'm going to become some registered Republican, because I still find them a bit shaky. But when I see Attorney Bragg in New York trying to convince the judge and the courts to treat Donald Trump as if he's deceased, as if he has died, just to make sure that your convictions on those 34 felony accounts remains a part of the record, it just shows another level of patheticness, if that is such a word, that creeps in. Once again, you can't let it go. He is the president-elect of the United States of America. In January 20th, he is going to be the president of the United States. And you want to sit up here and waste taxpayer dollars and literally go before the courts to do everything you can to make his conviction a matter of record, knowing he ain't going to get any jail time. You're not going to be able to incarcerate him. You're not going to be able to fine him. Sir, it's over. It's over. Democrats, it's over. It's over. I'm going to say this before and I'll say it again. You know what I would do if I were Joe Biden, President Joe Biden? Especially since I basically gave the Democratic Party the finger because you kept saying, we follow the rule of law, we follow the rule of law, we follow the rule of law. And then you went and you circumvented all of that to get to pardon your son Hunter. Since you were willing to do that, if I was President Joe Biden, I would pardon Donald Trump. I'm going to say it again. I would pardon Donald Trump for one reason and one reason only: to move the hell on. Enough's enough. Enough's enough. You tried to get him if you Nancy Pelosi. You tried to get him if you Chuck Schumer. You tried to get him if you were the Dems in the Senate and the House. You tried to get him if you were the FBI. You tried to get him if you were the Department of Justice. You tried to get him. I mean, damn. Russian collusion. What happened? See, we keep talking and talking and talking. And all we see at the end of the day is that you inconvenienced Donald Trump and you caused him headaches. Probably forced him to take a few doses of Motrin or Tylenol. That's all you did. You ain't doing anything else to him. He is back in the White House next month. All that shit y'all did, all the stuff you pulled, you had your surrogates out there, your pundits out there, you engaged in lawfare. You did everything. And you convinced the American people, yo, his ass belongs in jail. And where he going instead? Back to the White House. So, of course, when you see that preponderance of evidence that ultimately hits us, with the reality is that no matter how hard you try, whatever mechanisms you put in place, whatever, tactics you utilized, it all amounted to nothing. Joe Biden, they caught him sleeping at an African conference in Angola. Donald Trump wide awake, going back to the White House. Peggy Noonan, an outstanding columnist for the Wall Street Journal, wrote about the unprecedents that exist with a president-elect who's usually chilling. They're normally only making news when there are headlines announcing their cabinet members. Yet, Donald Trump is walking around like he's president now. In France recently, for the reopening, what is it, the Notre Dame Cathedral, talking to Zelensky for Ukraine, no doubt Putin for Russia, talking to Benjamin Netanyahu with the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Look at what is happening. Every time there is substantive stuff to talk about in the world of politics, Donald Trump's name is the headline instead of President Joe Biden. Y'all lost. The Democrats, you lost. You got your ass kicked in every way imaginable. And why am I saying it like that? It's not because of the election. It's because of what's still happening. Every single other day, this man is making headlines about political issues that are supposed to be dominated by President Biden and the White House. It's not happening. It's him. If that ain't definitive evidence that you have lost, and it is time to lick your wounds, look in the mirror, and revisit all of those tactics you tried to exercise, clearly in an effort to keep him out of the White House, it's now. Maybe you shouldn't have adopted woke culture, embraced woke culture and woke ideology the way that you should. To the LGBTQ community, anybody with decency should support you and your right to live your life. But I didn't hear the right talking about the LGBT community in general and painting everybody with a broad brush. I heard them addressing transgender issues in terms of somebody electing to change their gender, participating, men transitioning into women, but competing with women. Now, we can get into the nuances and to particulars about it, and the Democrats can sit up there and say that the Republicans are misrepresenting their positions and vice versa, what have you. Here's the bottom line. They were successful in disseminating whatever they wanted their message to be to the masses better than you were. You lost. And you're still walking around here, evidenced by the latest from Attorney Bragg in New York State, evidenced by him trying to keep the conviction alive. What is that going to resolve? Donald Trump, felony convictions. It's a matter of record. Wow! I mean, you're really accomplishing great things there, huh? He ain't going to prison. He's not even forced to keep on an ankle bracelet and be confined to his home, which is a resort, by the way, Mar-a-Lago in Florida. Oh no, he's going back to the White House. And he travels back to Mar-a-Lago at his discretion, whenever he damn well pleases. You lost. Let it go. When we want to talk about whether or not I want to be a Republican or whatever, listen, there are conservative issues that I adamantly support. I support lower taxes. I support free market capitalism. I support controlling our borders. Absolutely. And I'm a big dude on national security. I ain't apologizing for that to anybody. On those issues, I'm conservative. What am I liberal on? Live and let live. Social issues. Heterosexual, homosexual, bisexual, gay, lesbian, whatever. It's your life. And I'm certainly down for looking out for the desolate and disenfranchised. You're a minority community in this country, you need help, I'm down for it. You're poor and impoverished, we're only as strong as our weakest link. The elderly, we should always revere and honor and look out for them because they contributed to our society long before we got older, and it was our turn to do so. On that note, it is what it is. That's why I'm an independent. I flow with either side. But what I don't like about the Democratic Party at this particular moment in time, you keep walking around on your moral high horse, acting like you're above reproach. You're President Biden, he's my son. That's all you had to say. I can't let my son go to jail. I'm sorry, America. Simple. But instead, you try to get on your high horse and act like they were after him because of you. And try to make it into something political. Stop. This is what the Democrats repeatedly do. And you've gotten away with it for far too long. I've never been a fan of Elizabeth Warren for one reason and one reason only. I know her heart's in the right place. I know she's smart as a whip. I know she's very capable. My only problem with her is that if you don't agree with her, you're going to hell. Something must be wrong with your soul to disagree with her. That bothers me. I looked at Obama, former President Barack Obama, my president, who I admire and revere, and watched him talk to black men like that and accuse us of misogynistic tendencies because we may not be supporting Kamala Harris. How come it couldn't be her policies? We supported Hillary Rodham Clinton. Sick of it. Sick of the Democrats walking around like they have such a higher moral compass, a higher moral foundation than everybody else. No, enough of that demagoguery. Enough of that fear-mongering. No, your behinds need to go out there and learn to politic better to win. Make sure your issues are better. Make sure you're capable of doing a better job. Wes Moore, governor of Maryland, you'd have my vote tomorrow, my brother. But guess what, ladies and gentlemen? I also like Byron Donald, representative out of Florida. That's where I'm at with it. I'd love for Wes Moore to be the president of the United States in 2028. I'd love for Byron Donald to be the next governor of Florida. There, I said it. If that ain't independence, I don't know what is. But I'm sick of all of this. I really am. Democrats, you lost. You got your butts whipped. Own it, live with it, accept it, embrace it, and look in the damn mirror. And stop acting like the problem lies with others. It lies with you. Your messengers were weak. Your message was weaker. And I know that because the American people said so in droves. Own it. And get off your moral high horse.